Hi everyone, Neil Douglas, and this is American Truth Finders. And I'm hoping that I can get my microphone from falling off in front of me. Anyway, uh, I don't expect a real huge audience tonight, but I'm hoping that those of you that got uh, got to read some of the notifications that I put out that we were not doing a show until Friday night because of the Democratic convention. And I'm hoping that you understand that. And well, hey, I'm glad. Lisa Anderson, you're watching. I appreciate that. Are you going to be able to comment at all? I hope. We're going to tonight's topic, by the way, um, is about mail-in voting. We're going to start with that first, and the reason I want to start with that first because that is seems to be a big topic. Now, the second topic, of course, is the vice presidential pick for the Democratic Party, uh, and the presidential pick, of course, is Joe Biden. And so, if you have an opportunity, please share this with your friends that we are doing a show. We're going to talk about mail-in voting. I want your comments because we're going to do some research on it. I've got some research. We're not going to. We're going to go back to the vaccine situation probably after the Republican convention because uh, people will be watching that as well. In the meantime, for those, I got to adjust my chair. For those of you that are brave enough and you are my friends and you are watching, uh, I really appreciate it. And if you take just if nothing else, say hi to me and message me, and I hope that you will share this so that we can get. I'm running a little late. I did get started a little late because I was trying to find uh, uh, more information, uh, not to bore you with, but to let you know what's really going on. And I have a concern about the mail-in voting situation, and I think that maybe maybe some of you have the same concerns, and maybe some of you don't, because it actually could work both ways as far as fraud. Now, I know that there are states that are doing mail-in voting. They've done mail-in voting for a long time, and I'll give you those names if you want them. And any of the articles that you want, just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to make sure that you get them. I'll give you the links so you can see them yourself. But I'm going to start off tonight with my opinion, and then I'm going to read some or give you some articles to think about. But here's the situation as I see it at this point. This is my opinion. There's many states, I think like 30 some odd states that want to do mail-in voting. Here's my question to you. My question to you is this. If you have just mail-in voting, like for instance, California, uh, 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 Governor, was it Newsom? Is that his name? Whatever. Anyway, yeah, Gavin Newsom, I think. Anyway, they're just blanketly going to send out ballots or mail-in votes. Now, let's. Hi, Doris Roberts. I'm glad you could make it. Uh, Thanks for joining us. We're talking about mail-in votes, voting right now, and then we're going to go on to the vice presidential pick for Joe Biden and get some opinions. Anyway, I'm asking you, to think about this. If mail, this is just my own thoughts. If mail-in voting is done just blanketly, millions of mails go out, and who knows gets their hands on them. And if they go to the same address because somebody else has got their name, How, for instance, like apartments, a lot of people move from one apartment to another, or out of one apartment to another, and somebody else moves in, and the address may have one person's name on it. The other one may have somebody else's name on it in that same address. And let's say there's two or three of those. Is it possible that that person that is now living in that apartment, I'm just giving you an example, will vote twice? But wait a minute. Let's say they're a registered voter and they go down to the polling where they can go to register, and they register again in person. Now that's three votes by that same person. I mean, am I stretching this a little bit, or am I really touching something that you might have thought about? You know, I know people are going to come and go because people don't want to comment. They don't want to listen about this. They don't want to. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to say hello. They don't, you know, whatever the case is, and that's fine. But the point I want to get at is, and I'm going to give you some numbers that are going to probably startle you, but you know, there's been 15 election results that were thrown out because of fraudulent mail-in ballots. Now that, and I'm not going to go through all the details, but I'm just going to tell you that the voter fraud is too nominal to make a difference in any given election. This is one of the popular line of argument. Okay, why? How, you know, your dog gets a ballot, your cat gets a ballot, you get a ballot, and your uncle gets a ballot, and everybody lives in the same house, and even the dog gets to vote, the cat gets to vote. This is where I'm headed now. This is where now these articles that I've got. These are even I've even got an article from CBS that they did a test this year to see about mail-in voting. And I think you'll be very surprised at what they found out. But you didn't hear much about that. Okay? Now, Doris says they're already sending dead people in mail-in vote. Absolutely. I didn't even mention that at this point, and I may have forgotten to mention it. But you're right, Doris, because how often? And I'm going to tell you right now. That the 15 elections that I was referring to, they start. I'm not going to read a bunch of stuff that you really don't have any interest in, because if you want them, I can give you their websites. All you got to do is message me, okay? Give me a private message. But between 1992 and 2018, at least 20 voter fraud cases resulted in an overturned elections, according to the Heritage Foundation. Now, Evelyn, how are you? I'm glad you could join me. And if you have any comments, please feel free to join them. Evelyn, of course, watches. She comes from the Philippines, and she's very faithful. She's one of my most faithful, along with Doris and even my mind just went blank. Lisa Anderson. Excuse me. I'll get it straight. Anyway, I'm going to start with in 2017 in Florida. You know, a mayor was convicted of felony charges for voting fraud and a misdemeanor of absentee voting violations. Now, here we go. If you send for an absentee ballot, you can get one. Now, do you mail it in and then you do a mail-in voting as well? Or do you go down to the voting polls and you vote twice? You do a mail-in and that. Most people are pretty honest, to be quite frank about it, in my opinion. But it does happen. That was in 2017. In 2017 again, Alabama state judge requested the results of for the race that in these are like local uh, local elections, but people, you have to understand something. We're talking about a national election that's coming up. I want to know why all of a sudden the mail-in voting issue is such a issue that they even want to put it in the package for relief for the coronavirus. And of course that's never going to get settled. I got to tell you right now, it's not going to get settled if mail-in voting is going to have to be a part of that of the coronavirus package. I don't see how it's ever the Senate is not going to go along with it, and the House is going to continue to fight. But okay, like I said, this was a city council in 2017. In 2016, race for mayor in Alabama, there was a guy by the name of Albert Melton, excuse me. He won by just 16 votes. Melton later was convicted of 2 counts of absentee ballot figure or fraud and removed from office. He was sentenced to a year in prison and 2 years probation. People, listen to what I'm trying to say to you. Please pay attention. That's only a couple of them. There's one in Missouri that in 2016 where Penny Hubbard won the Democratic primary in the state's 78th House district and by just 10 or 90 votes, excuse me. Her opponent, Bruce Franks Jr., contested the outcome over and the absentee vote tally, and he ended up winning by 1,533 votes. So how could this possibly be? How could they have 1,500 and some odd votes? And in Texas, 2016, 2015, another one. I mean, I'm not going to read you everything about these, but this is a serious situation that can happen. People voting more than once. Do you have any concerns about that? Do you have any fears about it? Do you have anything? New York State right now. I mean, even right now, there's an issue I think in New Jersey that's going on that still hasn't been settled. A race in New Jersey is not hasn't been settled for months and months and months and months. I'm going to come right out and ask you right now before I go any further. What in the world do you think we're going to find out if there is mail-in voting, which is happening? California is one of the states that is just willy-nilly, as I said at the beginning of the show, mailing out mail-in ballots. How much fraud can happen? How are we ever going to know who the president is? Now I'm going to nail our Democratic friends, because this is where I guess things start to fire up. Because guess what? If they not only are they mailing just willy-nilly, everybody gets a mail-in ballot, even illegals. And the Democrats want illegals to be able to vote. If they're a registered illegal, but they're not a U.S. citizen, they want them to vote. I'm telling you right now, this is a serious situation. Now, are you ready for this one? 28 million mail-in ballots went missing in the last 4 elections between 2012 and 2018. I didn't stutter. 28.3 mail-in ballots remain uncounted, according to the data from the Federal Election Assistance Commission. The missing ballots amount to nearly 1 in 5 of absentee ballots and ballots mailed to voters residing in states that do elections exclusively by mail. 28 million ballots are missing between 2012 and 2018. Could that have changed things down the road, in the past? Could that have changed the picture? Because I'm going to tell you what, in these articles I told you about earlier, the Republicans did some fraud on the same thing. But the Republicans at this point are mainly trying to fight this because of the fact of the possibilities of fraud. If that doesn't concern you, then I don't know what will. But when I say that 28 million are missing, that does not mean that they didn't that they got sent in and just weren't counted. They're missing. What happened to them? Where did they go? That's a lot. You take 28 million. That's a ton of people. Although they said there is no evidence of the missing ballots were used fraudulently, according to the Public Legal Foundation, which completed the public data provided from the Election Assistance Commission, says that the sheer volume there rises serious doubt about election security. There is a good clue. So where is the security for elections? Now, there's questions, according to this article, that even says about the COVID-19, and I was going to bring that up, but the article already brought it up. Look, I'm going to tell you the way I look at it, the way I feel. You can tell me your feelings, because this is your show. You get to show me your feelings, and you message them to me, and I'm going to scroll down just in case I keep forgetting. Bob, I'm sorry I've missed you, Bob. I was rattling, and I'm glad you're aboard. Bob says it's how the liberals get elected is fraud. And then he goes on to say the whole system is corrupt, beyond repair. I have to agree with you there, Bob. It is corrupt. The whole system is corrupt. But I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna get your opinions on this, people. If you can go to the grocery store, if you can get to the post office to mail something that's very important, if you can get to a pharmacy, your doctor, or maybe even a family member that you're going to visit with a mask on, if you're that type of person or whatever, to protect yourself, why can't you go and vote in a polling place? And number 2, voter ID. Very simple. You have to have an ID to drive, picture ID to drive. You have to have a picture ID to vote. You have to have a picture if you're going to a polling place, I'm referring to. Many states ask when you get your driver's license, do you want to register to vote? Even states where you might apply for a gun permit, they ask you for an ID. If you go to the doctor, you have to show your ID. You go to the pharmacy. If you're getting some kind of medicine that might be considered an opioid or whatever, you have to show your ID. Now, why then is the Democrats, and I'm going to say it the way I see it, why are the Democrats saying that we're making a hardship on people by making them go and vote? Well, somebody please tell me where I am wrong in my thinking. I know I'm not going to have a lot of viewers tonight. I know that. And probably aren't going to be able to get a lot of comments. I understand that. But this show is important, and I hope like heck that you will share it when I'm done. I'm not going to make it a long show. I don't have to make it a long show. But I'm going to, I want you to help me out because am I thinking, is it off? But if you have to have an ID to even go to your doctor, or if you have to have an ID if you go get blood work and you want to get your report because you're not online, they're portable, whatever the case might be, why can't you go and vote? Why do you think you need to have a mail-in ballot? Now, I'm not talking about absentee ballots. That's a whole different ballgame. But even with absentee ballots, where are some of them disappearing? Where are some of them disappearing? I'm going to tell you right now. Doris says, I'm not wrong. Thank you, Doris. I appreciate that because the whole thing is there is no reason whatsoever in my mind that we should not be able to go and vote. Now, if somebody is disabled, can't even get out of bed, then they have a family member that get them an absentee ballot. That can be done very easily. And then they can say to that person, who do you want to vote for? Now, most people would, if they're honest, would vote, even if they disagree with the person, would vote for them, whoever they wanted. If they want to vote Democrat, they'd put down Democrat. If they want to vote Republican, that's what they would do, regardless of who the person is, what their political stance is. That's the way it was. Bob Freuden says it is just. You know something, I have to tell you. We're talking about the ability to elect a situation now where I honestly think if mail-in ballot voting becomes the thing, then I'm going to say it the way I feel it. We're not going to know, and this is where the Democrats are yelling. This is why they're yelling and wanting the mail-in voting. And then they're still screaming, and I'm picking on the Democrats right this minute, because I think it's very obvious. They're screaming that they are afraid that Donald Trump is going to rig the election. Well, if they're doing the mail-in voting and the ballots are disappearing or they're going to the dog and the cat, how is Donald Trump, and again, this is just a question, how is Donald Trump causing the problem? I mean, if somebody can answer that, I'll accept it. But I'm sorry. Bob says it's just common sense. If protesters can protest, oh, thank you for bringing that up, Bob. I really appreciate that because I got to tell you something. I was thinking that. They can protest. Americans can vote. You know something, that was one of the things in my mind that I definitely wanted to talk about was the protesters out there can march the streets, but yet they can't go out and vote. What's going on here? What is the deal that protesters? They have to have a mail-in ballot. Well, I'm gonna tell you. Here's a case where 4 people charged with mail-in election fraud as the Democrats continue to push for vote in mail. This is an article. This is in now. This is an opening that was on Twitter's fact check. The fight against Donald Trump didn't exactly unwind, as they planned it. So last month, the social media giant took the president to task over a tweet involving a mail-in ballot fraud, pending a big warning to Trump's tweets and linked that to a fact check. So what's happened here is they're fact checking. They're fact checking anybody that they don't like, and obviously Twitter does not like Trump. And I don't know about the Facebook police, but hey, these you can search these Facebook pieces, and you can. I got my tongue twisted there around my eye tooth, but I got to tell you something. You can check these facts. Twitter did take them down. You know, Trump. This article just goes on to say Trump, of course, begged to differ. There is no way, zero, that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. He tweeted, all right, mailboxes will be robbed, ballots will be forged, and even illegally printed out and fraudulently signed. The governor of California is sending ballots to millions of people, anyone living in the state, no matter who they are or how they got here, they will get a ballot. Well, it turns out they didn't exactly get that right. Now, having to reverse their original fact check to correct the number of states that were doing mail-in voting. And this article is referring to Twitter. Now, in Paterson, New Jersey, 4 men were indicted last week for vote tampering charges in a municipal election last month. You know, look, it goes on and on and on as far as voter fraud. Doris says you're still waiting for your absentee vote. I don't know how long. I don't know. Or your form. I understand what you. Yeah, that's what you said. I don't know how long it takes. You can actually do it online. Even you can print them out online. I did find that out because I did some research, and you can, if you want a absentee ballot, you can actually have somebody, or if you can do it yourself. Actually, if you have a computer in your state and get an absentee ballot, then you can get it printed off and get it either to your nearest polling place. And I do understand that a lot of polling places are not going to be as close as what they normally are because of the virus. They've moved them all in many states where people go to vote in person or go to hand their absentee ballot. The problem with mailing an absentee ballot, I see, is, to be quite honest, is there are people in the Postal Service that are throwing mail away. Now, how do I know that? Because there was an experiment done by CBS. Said we're going to see somewhere between probably 80 to 100 million voters receiving their ballot. This is according to former Arizona election official Tammy Patrick, who told CBS this morning, co-host Terry Dockapil, excuse me, I'll get it. Patrick is now a senior advisor for the elections program of Democracy Fund. Okay, for an experiment at post office box was set up to represent a local election office. A few days after the initial ballots were mailed, 100 more were sent. Okay, now this is by CBS. So I want you to do that. Hi, Lisa Anderson. I'm glad you could make it. Good evening to you too. If you've been watching or if you've had a chance to get it, I'm really hammering right now about the mail-in voting, and you may have a different opinion, and that's what makes this show good and easier for me. Evelyn, of course, is in the Philippines, and I don't know how they do their voting in the Philippines. I'm going to have to find out from her how they do the voting in the Philippines. Anyway, going on, it said when CBS did this, they sent out 100 more the following week, or a few days later. The mock ballots used the same size envelope, the same class of mail as real ballots, and even had mock votes folded to experiment the weight. The biggest difference was real mail-in ballots have a logo that is meant to separate them. CBS This Morning was unable to include those in the trial. All right. A week after the initial ballots were sent, most ballots appeared to be missing from the post office box. Excuse me. I don't see anyone back there for you, or anything back there for you. A postal worker told the reporter Dockerville at CBS when he received the mail. He said, "That's all I have back there right now." Now, this is where it gets interesting. After asking for a manager and explaining the situation to them, the votes were found. They had been somewhere else, the postal worker said. Then another problem, just misreported mail, or the missorted mail, excuse me. We get a birthday card from Mike Tarani, Despel said, as he read the postcard, mistakenly placed in the CBS This Morning's post office box. Have a sweet day. Get it? There's a B on top. The postcard, along with another piece of missorted mail, was then sent to the correct recipient. Now, I'm reading this because when we found this, or when I found it, I mean, it says, this is CBS did it. I've got more than one of the report from CBS, but this is the only one I printed off because I didn't have time and I didn't figure that you'd want to be bored with all the, all the reading of it. But this is important to know. Out of the initial batch mailed a week earlier, 97 out of 100 votes had arrived. 3 simulated persons, or 3% of voters, were effectively disenfranchised by the mail by giving their ballots a week to arrive. In a close election, 3% could be pivotal. That is the whole point here. If we have mail-in voter, and it gets just thrown in a corner someplace they couldn't find it before, but all of a sudden the supervisor said, "Oh yeah, well here they are," So, and according to the Postal Service recommendations, voters should mail their return ballots to at least 1 week prior to the due date. However, nearly half of all states allow voters to request ballots less than a week before the election. Come on, people. Do you know where this is headed? Do you know where this is headed? I mean, look, I'm sorry that if I'm offending anybody because I'm reading this, but this is stuff that we've got to think about. Mail-in voting. Is this going to cause are we ever going to know the results of this upcoming election if mail-in voting, and a lot of states are doing it? That seems to me, I think there was like 30 some states that I read might be doing the mail-in voting. And then, wait a minute, with the fact that the Democrats want mail-in voting, they still are coming back with saying to everybody that Donald Trump may never give up office. Is this just am I wrong in this? But is this not kind of like we want it to be that way so that we can accuse Trump of trying to stay in office forever and ever and ever and ever and ever? I'm going to tell you that he's not going to do it. If it's a fair vote and it turns out to be right, fair, whatever, and all the votes are counted, you're not going to know that night. I'm going to tell you, not with mail-in voting, not within mail-in ballots. You're not going to do it. Absentee ballots will be counted, but you're not going to know. You're not going to know that night. You may not know for a month. I know President Trump has said something about maybe 7 days. Well, guess what? I disagree with him because of like states like California who are sending them to everybody, anybody, doesn't matter. It could be your cat, your dog, it could be whatever. So I have to disagree with the president on that. States like Ohio, you can request your ballot on Saturday up until noon for Tuesday's election. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And you know, you've got whoever makes these rules up in these states have to be. I don't know what they're smoking, but maybe they should pass it around. Uh, I'm kidding. Anyway, and then it goes on to say that I'm concerned that it might be lost in the mail. You know, a potential voter uh, had said, and I'm going to tell you, the Postmaster General declined CBS this morning's request for an interview, but in an email statement said the Postal Service said it was committed to delivering election mail in a timely fashion. I want to know what the timely fashion is, and I'll tell you why I'm saying that. I'm just going to give you an example, and I don't know if this is true yet or not because I've not seen the markings on the ballot where your name and at the end of the barcode it has whether an R or a D. You know, that's been floating around Facebook, so I don't know if that's true or not. That a postal worker can tell whether or not it's a Republican or Democrat. And if they're a Republican, they can throw away the Democrats, and if they're Democrat, they can throw away the Republican votes. I don't have a clue if that's true or not. I have nothing to back me up on that, other than a video that's been going around, and I think you've all seen it. And the point is, the Postal Service has said we can handle the mail, but then last week I read, I think I read it to you on the show. Pennsylvania says they can't handle it. They cannot handle all the mail. So will somebody answer me? Please message me and tell me, what are your thoughts about this possible fraud, or do you like the idea of mail-in voting? Just willy-nilly. It goes to your address, and whether it's you or whether it's somebody else, because somebody else lived there before you did. You could vote for them twice. You can vote twice. You can vote for the person that was mailed to, and then vote for the one that's mailed to you because the address is still going to be the same. In other words, you've moved into that address. Can anybody tell me, does that sound like a great idea? What are your thoughts about mail-in voting? I'm asking because I honestly, truly believe, and if I'm wrong, I'm willing to take the heat. I'm a big boy. But the main thing I'm getting at is the possibilities are so great that we're not going to know who's elected. And the Democrats should get that through their head. It could even be the fact that if Biden and Harris are elected, they're not going to know because of the mail in, where the mail is just willy-nilly going out to anybody. Cat, the dog gets one. You know, dead people, as Doris mentioned. Bob made a very good point when he said even protesters, if they can go out and protest, then they can go and vote instead of taking a mail-in vote. But some states are just automatically sending out these mailers, and they're going to illegal people. They're going to people that aren't registered. The whole thing is scary to me because of the fact it's like a two-edged sword. You're darned if you do and darned if you don't. And I know I'm upsetting some people because I can see them coming and going. Doris says, no. I'm only voting absentee because I have a disability. And that makes sense. But no, Doris, trust me, I mentioned that. There are people who are disabled, and there are people that are disabled that have someone that are, like, say they're in a nursing home. They're a family member can go in or if they're in assisted living, whatever, they can't get to a voting place. So they have an absentee ballot, and that person goes in and says, "How do you want to vote?" I see nothing wrong with that as long as that person's honest and votes the way the person that can't go, who is disabled. And I understand your situation by all means, Doris. I really do. And that's I think that's a fair comment, and without a doubt. Bob says the fix is uh, fraud galore. Will be contested no matter. Yeah, that's where I'm going. That's where I was going with. We're not going to know. We're not going to know who the president is. Uh, uh, but it's going to be contested, as he said, no matter who wins. And if we don't have a decision by January 20, Pelosi becomes president, and you're absolutely right. And you better be damned well scared if she does. You better be scared if Pelosi. I'm going to tell you, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or what you are. You better be darned well scared if Pelosi ends up being president. She has so much control for one person, then she's got as much control as the president as far as I'm concerned, because right now she's holding back. It's just like she's calling them back, and I'm hoping it's only on the weekend so that the Republicans can do their conventions, just like the Democrats did, and the Senate did not call them to meet to get this trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars figured out as to where it's going to go, and why does there have some? Why is all this money that the Democrats are wanting right now? And I am picking on the Democrats, but I'm also picking on the Republicans because the Republicans are sitting there with their smile on their face or nothing on their face, and they're not doing anything but saying, "Hey, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're not going to even compromise with you." Well, I'm sorry that that's happening, but that's what it is. But when Bob said Pelosi would be the president by January 20th, if we do not have a decision as to who was elected president, Pelosi will be running this country, ladies and gentlemen. And if that says anything to you, or maybe it doesn't, I don't know. Lisa says there are steep fines for voting by fraud. Who would want to risk saying someone else's name? Lisa, I got to be honest with you. You might have missed this earlier, but it's been done for years, where the fraud has been taking place. And how in the world are you going to prove? How are we going to prove that somebody voted more than once? We don't. I mean, honestly, because when you're talking about how many millions of people, we got 3.5 million people in this country, or a billion, excuse me, or whatever. I don't know. 300 million is what I'm trying to say. Not all of them are voters, of course, because you got children and people that are whatever. But what I'm saying is, I agree with you. I wouldn't want to be caught by fraud voting. And you said, Lisa says, it doesn't matter if we don't know for a week or so. No, I agree with that part. That part's fine. But that's why I said, President Trump said, it may take 7 days. I kind of disagree with it. I'm disagreeing with the president. I think it's going to take longer than that to find out who's the president because of the mail-in voting, because there's so many states now that are going to that. And obviously, that's going to include the red states. So what is your best answer to protect your own vote? If you're able to get out and go to the grocery store, to the convenience store, to go get gas, to go to the doctor, go to the pharmacy, go to wherever you go. I know people in my own neighborhood that have visitors come to visit them. Well, if they can do that, they can go vote. That's just my opinion, and I'm saying that to anybody. You can go vote, except for those who might be disabled or those that are ill with whatever. I understand that. So if you feel you cannot go, or if you don't want to stand in the line, get an absentee ballot. It's very simple. You can go online and even get it, as I said. At least I know that in the state I'm in, you can get one. I don't know about everybody's state. You'd have to do the check on that. But that's, I mean, you got a good point, Lisa. I don't want to get, I wouldn't want to be charged with fraud for voting, voter fraud. But I honestly think it's going to take longer than a week. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you've got a point that I am totally wrong, and I'll admit it when that happens, because I do hope we do find out who the president is. Now, Bob Freuden says, word is uh, five blue states will secede from the Union, huh? And only recognize Joe Biden. Now, I have to be honest with you, Bob, I have not heard that. I have not heard that. But I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying you're wrong. But if five blue states secede from the Union and will only recognize Joe Biden, then Joe Biden would be their only president. He would not be the rest of the country's president, as far as I could see. Maybe I'm wrong. If they secede from the Union, and if they're big states like New York or California or whatever that really have a high voting power, then maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that would make a big difference. Bob goes on to say some folks are paid to do it. Well, that's in an article. I didn't read it, but yes, you're right. There is an article that I wrote, or that I had posted off. I didn't want to read a whole bunch of that stuff because it does get to where people get bored with listening to it. But because, like I said, I do my show mostly like I used to do my radio show. I do a lot of reading because I do a lot of research. And the thing I'm saying is, isn't that just like the protests, the rioters, the people, not the protesters, not the ones that have the peaceful protests. I'm talking about the rioters. How many of them are being paid to riot and tear up and burn and tear down houses and tear down people's businesses, kill people, shoot people, do whatever they want to them, pull them out of cars and kick them in the head? Those are people that I think that these are criminals. Just like voting for fraudulent voting is a criminal act as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, let's go on, because Lisa has a comment. Says, I'm looking at the Libertarians. They have better quality candidates than they usually do. Maybe they don't have a real shot, but it's better than voting for the Republicans. Does that mean the Republicans and the Democrats? That's a good way of putting it, Lisa. Well, you've got a good point. The Libertarians, you haven't even heard from the Libertarians. And here's something. I'm going to say something that's going to upset some people, I'm sure. How many networks carried the Democrat convention? Almost everybody that I know of. Even the ones that some people don't like. I'm interested in finding out, are those same networks going to carry the Republican convention? Because here's the situation. There is no doubt in my mind the mainstream media does not want Trump reelected. The mainstream media won't even recognize a libertarian. They didn't even recognize the fact that a black man shot and killed a 5-year-old child in the head. Now I'm getting a little bit off the topic, but you understand where I'm saying. The mainstream media, are they going to carry the Republican convention like they did the Democrat convention? If they're smart, they would, because let me tell you, that gives them a better chance of actually really picking Donald Trump apart, if that's what they do, which is what they do. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, I don't know why I honestly don't know why the Libertarians they're not, I don't even know who's running for the Libertarians. Bob says, the perceived deploy is actually monopoly. Well, you know what? It is kind of like playing Monopoly because guess it's like companies buying out some other companies, all these other companies, that they become a monopoly, Bob. That's the way I'm picturing this whole thing. But you're right. This whole perceived thing is actually a monopoly. I totally agree. Bob goes on to say that uh, this is a scenario by Podesta at the DNC. Well, but guess what? It, he, I have to agree. Uh, uh, it's not it's not very that term isn't even used hardly at all anymore, Bob, and I think you know that. And it's the monopoly of this. Doris says if you can go to the bar, then you can go. I hadn't brought up the bar issue, but yes, if you can go to the bar, you can go vote, and I agree with you. There's no reason not to go vote unless, like in Doris's case and other people's case, that there is a disability. Then you ask for an absentee ballot. You request one, and that's to me is totally legal. There's no question on either side. There's no question on either side, the Republicans or Democrats, that a mail-in ballot that's that you request an absentee mail-in ballot is totally legal. You know, that's unless some the only problem with that is if like if a mail person who doesn't want to deliver mail throws them in the trash, no matter whose side. It's to me that person should be caught and should be. Matter of fact, they should almost have to wear cameras, just like the police are supposed to wear them when they deliver mail. That way, you know it's gotten delivered, and then they're not throwing the things, throwing mail away. That's not a bad idea. I think I'll see if that's where Democrats ought to say they want the post office to have money. That's what they should do. Provide cameras for the postal workers so the mail gets delivered and it's recorded. It's simple. Boy, I didn't realize I could be that bright. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't take me wrong. Bob says the Chinese want him out. Yes, they do. People and I've heard and I've read people saying that China and Russia, well, that Russia wants Trump to win. No, Russia does not want Trump to win. China does not want Trump to win. Iran does not want Trump to win. Syria does not want Trump to win. I'm telling you right now, if there's going to be any fraud, are we going to go through another 4 years, no matter who it is, of nothing but the Russia game that took up so much time and so much money, and nobody got anything done in Congress? And I'm including both the Republicans and the Democrats. But when Bob said that the Chinese want him out, he said this is where the media marching orders come from. You know, I think what they're doing, Bob, in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, is they are swaying the media. And it's interesting. It's interesting because I was going to get into the Biden and Harris situation, but I don't know if we should do that tonight because you might be getting a little tired already. Because I know I start the show late, but I started late because of to make sure people have had a chance to hopefully had dinner or whatever. Dora says they don't like Trump because he tells it like it is. Well, I agree. He does tell it like it is, and it's gotten him in trouble. He has put his foot in his mouth a few times, and especially with Twitter or with that, whatever. But he does say it like it is, and that's why they don't like him. You're absolutely correct on that. I know that this is not what we like to think about, but what I'm going to tell you, I know the Democrats don't like it, but what I'm going to tell you is very factual. Trump's not afraid to tell anybody where to go. He is not afraid to tell people, any country, their leader, whatever, Yeah, he's a very good negotiator. He's excellent. He's one of the best negotiators we ever had for president. I mean, seriously. And I'm going to tell you something. And you can take this or believe it, or you don't have to. But most of what Joe Biden has said he's going to do, Trump has already done it. I mean, I could read you a list of things that Biden says he will do that Trump didn't do, and you tell me if I'm wrong. If you want to get into that real quick, we'll do a few minutes of that, and then we'll, if you want to cut it off, we'll cut it off, because I don't want to keep you up late, and there's a lot of people that got things that they want to get done. But anyway, I'll give you an example. Now these are, according to, the record facts. On January 31st, he called the China travel ban xenophobic and hysteria. That was on January 31st. Now he's saying Trump waited too long. Well, guess what? Trump had already, first of all, he didn't want Trump to even put a ban on China. And that's where the xenophobia comes in. Trump did, within just a matter of days, put the ban on China after the first case of coronavirus was found in the United States. Even Fauci did not want to put a ban on China. Okay, going on. I'm going to quickly. On early February, had his campaign say this is less lethal than SARS, and probably not a serious epidemic. This is Biden. He said it last night. I'm telling you, if you don't remember, go back and see if you can. I'm sure it's on YouTube. And if I'm wrong, then you can correct me. All right. And if it's not, now he's saying that Trump didn't do enough and the Democrats saying that he's not done enough. That they're blaming Trump basically for the virus and the spread of virus and killing so many people. He's a murderer. He's this, that, he's something else. And yet Biden said in early February, actually he had his campaign say that this is less lethal than SARS, and it's probably not a serious epidemic. And then in mid-February, Biden said, we don't have a COVID-19 epidemic. We have a fear epidemic. And now, yet, if you watch his campaigns, speeches, or his promotions, they're totally opposite. In late February, he said it's like the flu. It's going to dissipate with warmer weather and move to the southern hemisphere. I think a lot of people said that. Fauci, I might have even said it, or Dr. Birx. Trump may have said it. I'm just telling you as I see it, and yet, this is Biden's comments. Biden advisors said masks are not going to help. Well, if that's the case, and if you don't wear a mask, I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying that you're doing something wrong. What you're really doing is respecting somebody else who might be in fear of you and might do you harm because you don't have a mask. Hey, thank you, Mario Sims. I appreciate that. Mario, I'd love to have him on someday if I could. Matter of fact, I've got someone that I do want to get on as soon as I can figure out a way to do it. I talked to him yesterday. He's been in a VA hospital for 2.5 years, and you can't believe the stories that are going on. I mean, really. Then this man is one of the people that helped build HAARP, the very first HAARP that I have interviewed on my previous radio show. Anyway, I want to go on. Biden advisor, I already said that. In early March, Biden had an indoor rally in Wisconsin. He opposed the European travel ban. In other words, when Trump did the travel ban, he opposed it. Biden opposed it. And now he's saying that everything Trump did was too late and he should never have done it. Or he should have done it. He's claiming that he should have done it. Now, on July 20th, yeah. No, let me go to mid-March. I'm sorry about that. Biden said Trump needs to stop the xenophobic fear mongering. And yet they don't even like what he says because they said that he opens his mouth too much about the virus. I think having the people updated daily on the virus was a good thing. The only thing I don't agree with is I don't know that the numbers are right. And I'm just being honest. Anytime anybody gets killed or dies or whatever the case might be, it's always because of the coronavirus. I think the numbers are false. That's just my opinion. I have no proof of that other than what people have said, that maybe somebody they know who passed away or died or was killed in a car accident or whatever happened, they ended up having a death certificate that said died of coronavirus if they had the virus in them. And if you have certain types of viruses, they do come up as corona. Not necessarily this one, not the COVID-19, but it's still listed as that. So I think those numbers are fictitious. On July 20th, Biden delivered his plan for COVID-19 response in MSNBC's Joy Reid, or to Joy Reid. My 6 things, he said, would be the Trump administration has already done. He admitted it. Now, go back and look at it. When Biden was vice president, he depleted the stockpile of the PPE and didn't replenish it. And that's what Trump has said so long that happened during the Obama administration. And that is, they depleted all this equipment that was needed, that had to be hurried and made by manufacturers who never made anything before. The masks, the clothing, the ventilators, whatever the case might be. And if you're a Democrat and you don't like what I'm saying, I'm sorry, but this is the truth. This is happening. This is what was accused, what he's being accused of. Trump is being accused of not having taken care of everything. I don't want to get into Kamala Harris, other than the fact that I'm going to say this. I mean, I've got 50 some things that I could tell you. Not all of them are bad. I will tell you that in all honesty. But I'm not going to go into that. I was going to go into it tonight, but I'm not going to. We can either do that another night or whatever. But I'm going to say this about Kamala Harris. I'm concerned if Biden gets elected. He may be a wonderful man. I don't know, because I've never met him. He really may have a true lot of love in his heart. I don't know. I can't get into his mind. I'm only telling you things that I've found. But I don't think Joe Biden would be the president, even if he's elected. And Kamala Harris is one of the farthest left, along with Elizabeth Pocahontas, whatever her nickname is, and Bernie Sanders, and they're going to take this country to the left. And in this case, even Nancy Pelosi will probably be kicked out of the picture. I want you to dig into some of Kamala Harris. Now, when she ran for her office, not this time, she was the first American Indian. Now she's the first American black woman to run for. What is she? She's mixed like President Obama was. He was not a full-blood black individual. Does that make him bad? No, it doesn't make him bad. Doesn't make her bad, but she's got to make up her mind, because she ran for her her seat in the Senate, I believe, was anyway. Whether she's a senator or a representative, it doesn't matter to me. Point is, she ran as an American Indian, Indian descent, not American Indian, but as a American Indian, not like our forefathers fought and took their land and so on and so forth. So, with that in mind, I don't know if you have any more comments or whatever, but I want to thank those of you that stuck around. I want to thank you for putting up with me tonight. I am going to cut this off because I've been on for just about a little over an hour, and I know people come and go, and I didn't figure I'd have a big audience tonight. But for those of you that have stuck around, I really appreciate it. I thank you. You're great. Honestly, you're great. If without you, I couldn't do a show because most of my comments would be my comments, and I think that in all honesty, the communication, East Indian, thank you. Lisa, thank you. She was East Indian. Doris says, let's see, I noticed that last night. Were you referring to what I was listening on, or what I was talking about? Kamala Harris, I'm sorry. And Lisa says she is East Indian. And that's what she is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But she needs to make up her mind whether she's East Indian or she's African American. She ran as East Indian. She called herself an American Indian, by the way. But that's okay, But if she was proud of that heritage, why couldn't she say, well, she is a African, or she's a American, Black American Indian, Eastern Indian lady. What's the matter with that? There's not a thing wrong with that. She is not a black woman. And I'm not putting that against her, except for the fact, tell the truth. Come on. This is political. This is politics. I understand that. You understand that. We all understand that. But guess what? We're not that stupid either. At least I know my viewers are not by any means. Doris says she's crocked. Or is that what you meant, or is it crooked? Or am I reading that wrong? I got new glasses, and I'm you know what? They're a little darker than what I think they should be. I got to get them some of the tint taken out. Doris says you're appreciated. Doris, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You are appreciated. Lisa, Bob, Evelyn, everybody is very well appreciated. Doris said yes, and I'm asking Doris, you're referring to, was that comment about Kamala Harris and her speech, or accepting the vice president, or was that, what do I want to say, Biden's and the things I read off about Biden. Anyway, it doesn't matter at this point. You've been wonderful. Thanks for sticking around. I want to just say this. I want to say this real quick. I'm not going to be doing another show until after the Republican convention, just like I didn't do one during the Democrat convention because most people were watching that. Or if you weren't watching it, you got a break from listening to me. But I am going to do, thank you, Doris, you did say yes. I am going to do this. I'm going to concentrate hard on the next show as to whether we go back to the vaccines, because that is still going to be a hot topic, or whether we're going to stick with the election coming up and the voting by mail, or I will let you know. I did not do a lot of promotion. That's my fault. So if I don't have as many viewers as I normally get, that's my fault. But for those of you that would, please at least share my video, not because I get paid for it, I don't, but so that you hear what I had to say and you can read what the comments were that went along with it. because I think I got everybody's comments in tonight, and I appreciate that. So, in the meantime, until I will make an announcement and probably do a video promoting the next show. But if you have an idea of what you want me to talk about, what topic, please message me. You know I'll message you back. And if I happen to miss anybody when I message you and say thank you for participating in tonight's show, please forgive me, because I really am. I try to thank everyone because that's what makes this show. So until next time, which will probably be, I don't know if we'll do it a week from Friday or we'll wait and do it on a Sunday night when after it's all done, all the hoopla is done and over with. But either way, it won't be this coming Sunday. It would be a week from Sunday. Please be careful. Stay safe. God bless you. God bless, regardless what party you're in. I mean that. God bless all of you. God bless America. In the meantime, until next time, this is Neil Douglas, American Truth Finders. Have a good evening and have a good week. Good night.